She cannot change jobs already. No one's going to hire her because I'm trying to get pregnant. GG lah. You think an employer is going to hire someone and then immediately pay for their maternity leave for 3 months plus? No what? So I don't think it's enough, even if you give tax reliefs. All right, welcome back to Yamcha Sessions, VFO, VeryFastOne. Today is the 14th of April, 2024. We will be discussing, and I will be hosting, the topic on Malaysia's fertility rate. So in 2022, although it's already 2024, but this was written at the end of 2022, end of 2023, it's the lowest in 50 years.
For whole of Malaysia.
For whole of Malaysia. So let me just read one paragraph so that we have a bit of context. The total fertility rate for the year 2022 has reached the lowest in 50 years, standing at 1.6 children per woman aged 15 to 49, compared to 1.7 children record in 2021. So a 0.1 drop when it comes to children per woman from age 15 to 49, which is kind of messed up how it's 15 years.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Like, why are you measuring 15 to 49, bro? That's kind of messed up, bro.
Because we have the East Coast, but anyways.
Continue. Okay, so I guess we'll start with why. Why do you guys think that? Why do you guys think there is a decline in birth rate? Andrew, you're going to start first. What are your first thoughts?
First thoughts is, globally speaking, there appears to be a trend where the more developed your country becomes, the more your birth rates will decline. That is more a symptom of, I suspect, people wanting to protect their quality of lives and feeling as if having kids will hurt their quality of life. Therefore, more people want fewer kids, if any.
If any. Also.
Yeah, so that's my high-level knee-jerk reaction. Good news is I suspect we're moving in the right direction from a development perspective.
Silver linings.
Silver linings.
MJ, what is your first thought?
To be fair, I read somewhere that the Malaysian Chinese have the lowest birth rate in the region. So we are like 0.8, something like that.
0.8, so wow, we're bringing down the average.
Replacement rate is 2, you know. 0.8 is like China level kind of birth rates. I think, just beyond what Andrew said, it's because also, not only do they not want to sacrifice quality of life, but some people want to have kids, but they feel that, even if they can, they feel that they rather put all their eggs in one basket rather than have 3 kids. Because the way they see is like, okay, if I get a kid, okay, I need to prepare him for school, early learning. I need to give him the best nutrition, blah, 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 blah. Then to them is, times 2. Well, 2 kids is times 2. 3 kids is times 3. So I think over time, generations have changed in a way that they want to inject more resources into a kid rather than in the past where
one kid might die.
But it doesn't matter, right? Like, I think I was reading somewhere in the past, 50% of kids don't make it past 10 but it doesn't matter because you had so many. Right? Yeah. So I think that's what it's just resource. And this goes back to a concept in biology called R and K selection theory. So K selection is like that. So these are like wolves. Wolves have very few pups, right? So they inject a lot of care and resources into one. And then you've got the other group, which is the R selection side, which is like rabbits, where to continue survival, they just give birth to a lot. So this would be, it's not an exact analogy, but it's very similar to how Malays think versus how Chinese people think about kids. So
what about Indians?
I don't know.
Do you know any statistics?
Good question. I think it's probably in between, probably.
I'm not sure if you have that infographic.
I legit am on this page, that same article, and MJ said 0.8. It is on the dot.
0.8, right?
0.8. Yeah. But Malays are 2.1 children per woman.
Whoa.
Yeah, so they are above replacement.
Yes.
And the Malaysian is halving.
Yeah, but unfortunately, no statistics on the Indian side. But I am on the OSM, and they did mention that. I can open it up, but I'm not so sure because I'm not so familiar. Maybe I pass the laptop to you so Andrew can pull up the statistics. So my thoughts are also akin to and similar to both of you. I feel that it's quality of life that we are trying to protect.
Yep.
And it's also because a lot of things now are accessible for a very affordable rate. So because we are accessible and affordable, technically you don't really need to upscale certain things. But because of this, we have this mindset in which status quo is better than status I don't understand or I'm not familiar with. I also want to add on that there could be a psychological thing in which we feel as if it is a very stressful thing to have a kid now because the previous generation feels as if they're not very dependable on. So like last time, if we had grandparents to look after us, they somehow had believed that their parents could look after us. Maybe we don't have that same faith. We don't have that same faith because a lot of the adults that looked after us were in the workforce rather than in the care for your kids force. Yeah. So the majority of that also I think stems from that. Like if you ask me, do I trust my parents to raise my kid? I wouldn't trust 100% compared to like my neighbor who was also there because my grandma was also in the workforce. So for me, I don't know whether they are also, I don't even want to burden them, right?
Yeah.
And they had maids at the time. So maids were kind of like the moms that looked after you. And now we can't even afford maids.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, now like if, previous generations, they treat harm to their kids, they like walk it off, right? Let's say physically. But I think now parents are, I have a friend who's a badminton coach, right? Like if, there's this, he trains this girl who's like I think about 12 years old, something like that. And she has like poor footwork. Footwork's not great.
Okay.
And she's been training for a year already.
Okay.
So let's say if you have a kid that trains under this coach for a year and the footwork hasn't improved, previous generations will look at the kid and say, why you not improve? Why you not improving? But this particular mom, I was shared with this story just a couple of days ago. Look at the coach. Why is she not improving? So they always have this. Now, it doesn't seem like it's relevant to the conversation, but it's important because the kind of stress that they have for their kid, the kind of concern and all that. If they have more kids, they will multiply this. But last time is get done. Coach, just listen to the coach. Why are you not improving yourself? Right? Of course, my coach say, well, she doesn't even play games outside of the training. Like, how are you going to improve? So I think part of it is that the people are more like particular and concerned and like more coddling of their kids
rather than the brutal heart on them.
So there's a lot of anxiety on how their kids develop. So imagine if you have more kids, it's just like double triple.
Which I think is in reverse, I think you have more kids, you have less. I feel so.
Maybe.
Yeah, you just realize everybody is different. I think that's what Andrew and I went through. When I was younger, a lot of stress was put onto me to get good grades and everything. And then when Andrew came out, Andrew got good grades and they realized, actually John is just not the grades type. Yeah, then the narrative changed from me being pressured to get good grades to it's okay, just do your best. Yeah. This is different. It was just like, you should do more art stuff, go and draw, whatever. But I'm shit at that also, so I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Only relative to Malini.
Yeah.
So this is a 2013-2014 study, but this gives you a sense on the scale. Bumiputra birth rates at that point in time were 2.6.
Wow, even the Malays dropped then, 2.6 to 2.1.
So they dropped. At that point in
time... Actually, cannot say Malays because it's Bumiputra, but okay.
At that point in time, Chinese and Indians were basically on par at about 1.4.
Wow.
Yeah, we dropped.
So if we drop to 0.8, very likely for Indian side, they also drop. Whether drop to the same degree is up for question, but you can more or less gauge that it's relatively similar.
It is unfortunate, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, but then you also have to challenge the premise of the question. So I think one of the big questions people have to ask is, is population growth a good thing? Of course, if you're Team Elon Musk, you say yes. The only disagreement I have with his point of view is that actually you need population growth of the right people. Okay.
Ooh, touchy,
because you see, right, it's all about how you evolve as a group of people, right? And the way, let's say, like Chinese people do it is, we don't want to have more kids because we want that kid to perform the best and to be absolutely the best. This
Majority
is not necessarily what other groups of people think, right? So the question is, as we progress forward, right, which style of parenting or reproduction, right, is going to be relevant to the world? If in a democracy, absolutely yes, the quantity route is better. But then again, you could also argue that if you want to perform in an economy, the quality route is better, right?
Yeah.
For 4 waiters is not going to bring the same kind of enterprise value as a coder.
Yeah. Or an entrepreneur or whatever lah. Because
So
they scale the economy differently ma.
So that's something that you as a potential parent have to think about. Because, I mean, if I ask Elon Musk, okay, you can grow the population. One scenario is 4 bricklayers and versus the other scenario, 2 coders. Which
Definitely
path are you taking?
Yeah, you would know by default, right? Because you want to scale the economy differently, right? Because his vision is different lah.
Ideally, it's 2-2 lah, but then that's not how necessarily the world works.
Okay, so follow-up question is, I'm very certain at this point lah, more is better already. We can't even debate for quality, right? Because in the trajectory we are working at this point, you're just going to be lacking people. And lacking people means you don't even have the waiters, don't even talk about coders.
Yeah.
So if you don't even have the waiters, a lot of mom and pop stores will also close. A lot of smaller businesses will close. Don't even say that. I think even big businesses will close because they can't even hire people to do manual labor. So following that question is, do you think that the government provides enough incentives to have families have more kids then? Do you think our government, at least the Malaysian government, is providing enough incentives? What do you guys think?
I think from a tax relief perspective, it's quite generous.
Okay,
So
maybe you want to list down a couple of things that you feel.
You get tax relief on investing for your children's education.
Okay.
You get tax relief for breastfeeding equipment. And yeah, I mean, those are the 2 that come to mind lah. So from a tax relief perspective, I recall those, the max caps there are quite high. Obviously depends on your chargeable income lah. If you don't have much chargeable income, I guess it's fairly redundant. But yeah, I feel from an incentive perspective, okay lah. The challenge isn't so much about the incentive, but more about just my general livelihood relative to the general population's income, general cost of living. That equation isn't tallying lah.
Yep, that's what I was going to add to that. Yeah.
So the funny thing is that the people who qualify for those tax reliefs who are at their chargeable incomes are the ones that don't want to have more kids.
Correct, exactly.
So it's like,
So let me follow up with a question in relation to the tax relief one before I go to MJ's thoughts. So Jen and I are this crossroads where we feel like we should have kids. We are in our early 30s, so we know we have an odd decade or so before we know that it's going to be even more difficult to have kids, right?
Yeah.
So the follow-up question is, I understand there are tax reliefs. I also understand that we also have parents, fortunately, that can support and can help, and we have, and not just financially, I'm saying they are there also. So if kid is sick also, they can be like, don't worry, you go to work, I take care of the kid. So we know we have all this. But the follow-up question is, although even we have that financial like backing also, it's not just the lifestyle, you know. It's like, what more benefit does it bring you as a parent? Because not only disrupts you financially, it disrupts your time also, you know.
Very much so.
And to add on to that, to pile it even harder, is Jen's career. So if she were to change jobs, she were to have options to move to different companies, because her career is taking off also. She cannot change jobs already. No one's going to hire her because I'm trying to get pregnant. GG lah. You think an employer is going to hire someone and then immediately pay for their maternity leave for 3 months plus? No. So I don't think it's enough. Even if you give tax reliefs. Tax reliefs does not halt you from your time. It does not halt you from your career. It even gives more damage to the wife, right? Because hospital bills are still not covered, right? You can go to a government hospital, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the quality that you want also, because we are in that position that we want quality.
Yeah.
So, and then that comes to birth. It doesn't even go to looking after the kid post-pregnancy. It's very difficult. There's not enough incentive in my opinion. So you have to overcome all these things for a reason we are not even sure of. So why do you want to have kids? If you don't even have that solid foundation of why you want to have kids, I feel like it's very difficult. And a lot of people only find that reason after you have that kid. And that's because no choice really. You kind of like, I'm already here, I might as well find a reason. Whether good or bad, it's a reason lah, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, so I when I speak to new parents, I'm not sure if they are speaking from the perspective of, oh, it's already done, so they need to justify their actions, right? But they are saying, if you try and do the math around how much it might cost, financially speaking, to have a child, you are never going to come to the conclusion that you should have a child.
Because the finance part
Half
is
a
not
mil
the...
for Malaysia.
Right. Even regardless whatever number that is, right? The ROI is negative one.
Yeah.
Certified.
Yeah.
So financially speaking, you have to resign yourself to the fact that it's ROI negative.
It's
It
a
is
loss.
what it is. Yeah. It's a larger question of, is this what you want in life only?
Yeah.
It is not about finances because that's in the dumpster already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want it in life, then do it. If you do not, then don't.
Yes.
Is the
overarching-
crystallized understanding from my conversations with these new parents. So given that you are at your crossroads and you are seriously considering having kids, it seems as though from a big picture perspective, you want to have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just the ops behind it that is troubling you, right?
But okay, we go back to the initiative, the incentives first to MJ. So what do you think are some of the additional incentives that the government has provided? Or at least like,
I think in Malaysia, there's a lot of it's fertile ground for people who wants to exercise their fertility, right? In addition to tax reliefs, we have so many subsidies. Housing is still very affordable. A lot of the financial complaints that Malaysians give are not as real as say Singapore or South Korea. Right? In South Korea,
a lot more brutal.
earning 40,000-50,000 US dollars a year is
It's not
average
viable.
or below average, right? But if you did that in Malaysia, right, you can have 2-3 kids already. Easily, right? So I think it's behavioral. I think the bigger barriers are cultural rather than
Which is the quality you want for your kid.
yeah, I think there will be two. One is that certain groups of people feel that they really need more than they want to over invest in their kids. They don't need. And then other groups of people under invest, right? They think it's so cheap, so then they get a lot of kids, and then before they get 7 and 80K in EPF at age 55. So it's really behavioral. So
You think the incentives don't matter? That's what you're saying. Actually, the incentives don't matter. It's
actually, it has
actually
never mattered. I mean, look at what Japan is trying to do. Look at what Scandinavia, Singapore. Literally they say, if you want a house, get married. They're just one step away from if you want a house, have kids. But they can't do that because if they do that, no one will vote for the government already.
not like anybody will vote otherwise, but that's what.
No, but their system allows for the government to fail, right?
Yeah.
And the attitude of Singaporeans today is we'll always vote for the PAP, but one or two in our family will always vote against you just to keep you in check. So it's
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
80, yeah, that's the mindset nowadays, right?
Wow.
So literally they're doing all this incentive. You married, then you get a house.
Yeah.
Or you get a house faster, right? BTO.
Priority. Okay.
And they have issues, but then you look at countries with high birth rates, India, no such thing. It's just
Okay, so my follow-up question is, do you feel as if from young, we were actually deterred from having kids because of how we were raised or the conditions in which we were raised?
Your question is
So our upbringing is what had shifted us to this point where, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay. So when Andrew and I were growing up, we were given a lot, I feel.
Yeah.
A lot. So the second, the follow-up to that is, can we provide the same, if not more? Then the second reasoning, the second follow-up, the second add-on part, if you will, to that question is, do you think the education system throughout the entire time, or even the way we were raised, has shaped us into this point that consumerism outweighs the fact that, it's better than having a kid? Because now you want to contribute to the economy, you want to do better in your career, you want to have a side hustle that earns you money. The question is, for the 90% of your life, at least as a Chinese Malaysian, I don't know about the rest, it's always, are you earning? How much are you earning? When's the next promotion? Are you manager? Are you director? Are you boss? Do you own your own company? Only after this entire stretch do you ever get the question, so when are you going to have kids? So do you think our upbringing has shifted us into that position which we think this way also?
I think that any modern education will lead into lower
Birth rate.
because now you are thinking about so many things. You want life fulfillment, you want to travel, you want to build a certain business, and then in some cases you don't really want a wife, you want to sleep around with
Spread your wings.
spread your seed or whatever, right? So yeah, absolutely. However, I think one thing people who are in a more privileged positions, such as yourself, is to go back, I think, to the root, to an old quote, right? Old verse called, it takes a village to raise a child. So I think if you are born with that privilege and you do have a kid, know that if you want to have the same lifestyle or even better, you probably cannot do it alone, and you have to do it with your extended family, which is hard, but that's how it is. And I say in the previous podcast as well, married people earn more than unmarried people.
Oh, for like sheer will at this point.
Because got a kid, literally. And then some end up overshooting. They just, I just need it for my kid, and it's, before you know it, they've found a multi-7-figure business. I overshot. Now I got money and no problem. International school. Anyway, high quality education, right? Not always true, of course, but I don't really know if I answered your question.
The question is whether we've been raised is what we shape to what we think today.
I think to try and answer that question, I think that my answer is yes. If you were born into a family where you had one other sibling, generally speaking, your idea of what a family should be consists of 2 children. And so you would want to replicate that instinctively.
Because you feel as if that's how you were raised, so that's the better way to be raised anyway.
Correct. You will always benchmark against your childhood on what you want your children to receive.
Jen has 2 siblings, by the way, but she was also agreeing that I think 2 is well enough.
Maybe she got beef lah.
She's even thinking, I think 1 also is a stretch lah, okay? So 2 is a home run, right?
Perhaps that is more from an economical perspective lah. If you ask her the question, if resources were not an issue,
I think
how many would you want?
I think she would. Then she's like, why the fuck are we having kids in the first place?
Wow, then you should just like double down, go 0, is it?
Yeah, she's like, then be 100%, you should just go travel. Like,
and the bloodline.
Yeah, man.
I actually beg to differ. If your resources were truly infinite, right, there will come a time where the joy that you derive from money will plateau.
Yeah, because it's just...
It is just money.
Materialistic happiness.
It won't mean anything to you already. The moment you nonchalantly buy a McLaren for fucks, right? At that point, it doesn't matter already. So you would try to find happiness elsewhere lah.
Okay.
So to go back to the question, I do think your own childhood shapes who you want to become as a parent.
But do you think our culture has also shifted this though? Because if you think about it, right, a majority of the cultures that enter this development phase, like MJ was saying, goes through these questions in their cultural day-to-day. Like, if you were to sit at a dining table and you were to just listen into conversations with families or friends that came over, they would tend to ask these questions. Developing, first world normally know already. Developing countries, I feel like when I come across it, even if it's the developing mindset rather than the country itself, if you go to, for example, right, I went to a family dinner, it's an Indian family in the UK. I sat down, I ate with them. Similar question, one. They're like, so when you're going to find a girlfriend? That type of thing. Then after that, when you're going to start working? And it's always those progressive questions that kind of shift you in that direction. Because they never really truly want you to think about what you want. Because I think if you understand what you want already, once you've achieved what you want, then only you think, okay, then I should have a kid to carry on that legacy so that I can help them or him or her get what she or he wants. Right? Yeah. Because ultimately, right, if the chase is always stability, right, when you reach stability for majority of people, it is too late lah.
But I feel even in Malaysian Chinese families, I'm sure you get the question a lot when you're going to have kids.
No, I don't actually.
You don't?
I don't.
Why do I get it so often?
Oh, serious?
Maybe they're confusing me for you.
No, maybe it's because you're more stable. I work for MEP.
Oh boy.
But events and all that, I don't know lah. I really don't know how. Okay, so maybe it's because our family, right? For context, my mom, my uncle, and my aunt, all of them have a maid in some sort. Maybe not Yi, but Yi kind of use everybody's aunt. So technically, right, they didn't really need to worry about it. For us, it's a different scenario altogether lah. So we have to worry about it because who's going to take care of my kid lah? I barely can take care of myself. I can't even clean the litter on time, right? Or once a week. Like, shit, I forgot to clean the litter. Laundry also, like, if it's a hectic week at work, gone, man. It's difficult. So I think it's not just the money. I think it's the time also. And it's also, so money is time. And then not only that, the whole time when you're shaped up to this point into your life, you've always been nudged in that direction of Why don't you earn money instead? Or whatever you do can earn money or not? Maybe it's economy, not sure.
Yeah.
Because if you were a very prosperous country, right, you wouldn't have these questions, I think. You'd be like, oh, are you happy or not?
Yeah,
Or
if it
like-
was a very prosperous country and I worked as a barista at Starbucks, no shade to you guys, and if I earn more than enough to sustain my family with that Starbucks barista income, I work, say, a 6-hour shift, I come back home, I obviously cannot be a Starbucks barista at home, right? I have my full focus at home. So maybe that's okay. So maybe it is...
I would say that it's okay if you have responsible governments. So if you are European, for example, in contrast to
Asian counterpart.
maybe like Japan or Singapore, you have to think about that because yes, you can have that mindset in France, Germany, the UK, but then because that is the widespread belief of the indigenous people there, so the government start importing foreigners who do not share the same values and are messing up the society.
Then it shifts the cultural aspect of it as well.
Whereas in Japan, which is
mono-
a bit better, is look, we will rather die than accept people of other skin colors and cultures. Maybe Koreans, that's it. Or you can adopt the ultimate one, which would be the American way of doing things. We accept anyone as long as you are capable. Mexican, so that's the way. Or in a smaller way, Singapore as well, right? The governments basically say,
Singapore is out of desperation, bro.
yeah, basically say, look, our people, if give them BTO, still don't give birth. Okay, fine. We'll take in all these billionaires, we'll take in all these capable people, I think to the tune of like 6,000 foreigners every year, new Singaporeans, we just bring them in. So it really depends. I think if you had that mindset in somewhere like Singapore, maybe
Depends where you are,
or
lor,
the US,
to carry it.
maybe. But I think if you are the UK, I've been meeting a lot of friends from Germany. I'm on TikTok and all that. Just because through TikTok I connect with them, they're like, "Yeah, the Europe is
what?
not there anymore. That is,
It's bad.
yeah, it's really bad.
Or because of the immigration.
It's bad. Yeah, so it really depends on your government. It really depends on your government.
Okay. So last question, because we're going to be ending soon.
Yeah.
We can go one at a time. What are your predictions for the next 5 to 10 years? Do you feel as if it would be a reverse, or do you feel it would be a continuous decline?
Continuous decline all the way.
Oh shit. What about 20 years?
Decline.
What about 30 years? Extinction.
I don't know. Maybe 30 is too long. I don't know. But
20.
10, 20, I think very safe for it to assume it will decline.
Wow.
The inflection point, right, for people to culturally think differently is to transport yourself back to when people are incentivized to give birth more. What were the conditions that allowed them to do it? And in fact, a lot of conditions are outside the person or even the society's control. I give you an example, right? In Europe, there was a population boom, right? Once two things happened. The first is the Black Death happened. So, which is like the worst plague in history. Like 1/3 or more of the entire European population got wiped out. So what happens is, for every 3 stonemasons there are, 1 died.
Oh shit.
Guess what? The price of your services have gone up. Your wages have gone up. So if you are a
stonemason?
no, if you are, that's just stonemasons, but other people as well, right? So now the incentive of
Having kids
is
is
a bit higher because now
Your return is higher.
Your return is higher. That's one. The second thing is, the earth became warmer, and so a lot of areas in Europe started being able to plant more foods. Food become more abundant and cheaper. And so suddenly, this is like the 1500s, I think. And suddenly you see a big population boom, and then industrial revolution came out, right? These are all things that are outside of the control of
the one
a
human being.
being. And what can you do? That's why I agree with him, is business as usual. What big, really tailwinds are going to happen that will cause this? I don't know. A war? A big earthquake? I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, these are the kind of things that need to happen. Right? Why is India like giving birth so much? Because they have fertile lands, and there's I mean, maybe they're religious as well, but then the economy is on the up. They are 20 years behind China. Why is China declining? Well, mixture of one-child policy plus
The
everything's getting
lay down,
expensive,
the lie
it's
down thing.
competitive, the lie down thing. So it's really outside of the control of a lot of people. We kind of have to be like born in the era. Then like, yeah, okay. Then it cannot be on the will of the person.
Okay.
Society itself.
Let me add one more question before we end.
Yeah.
One thing to change immediately, you can change one thing about Malaysia in order to push for people to have more kids. What is the one thing you do? Andrew.
Push more people to have kids.
One thing to do to implement policy, law, incentive
As a government.
To immediately implement this the next day. Because you know the trajectory, you have been speaking to analysts, you know that the country is in decline. Next to 10 to 20 years, your workforce will be absolute dog shit. Everybody says PM11, please implement one policy to allow the future to sustain in Malaysia. What would you do?
Wages need to go up while keeping cost of living flat or declining. You need to decouple these two. Now, that's the
Easy way to
very
explain it.
broad statement. Now, there are a million different ways for you to attempt to achieve it. Whether or not you can is another question. Generally, what you need to do is you need high-skilled labor, fewer blue-collar workers or fewer gig economy workers, brain drain and whatnot, right? You increase the number of high-skilled labor, and this high-skilled labor is expected to increase the efficiency per person.
I see. Okay, so that way the economy is run a bit more efficiently.
Yeah, so even if you're paying more for these workers, when efficiency goes up, your output goes up. When your output goes up, hopefully that keeps your cost of living flat at the very least. Then you start to see a bigger gap in terms of disposable income. Then you will see population rise.
Because people have the income to have kids.
Correct.
Because it's within human nature. You're leveraging on human nature, basically, because right now we cannot even fulfill our Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's why we are struggling. That's why we go even do
The
production.
vast majority of people cannot fulfill the baseline of the hierarchy of needs. But this is, of course, a very siloed solution. In reality, there are a multitude of factors that go into play. Right? Whether got big earthquake or not will play a factor also. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
These are unforeseen circumstances.
So that's my one answer.
Your answer is basically to hopefully have people be more effective, earn more money, and then hopefully be efficient, and then be cheaper, and then hopefully because of this, we have kids.
That's right.
Okay. What about you, MJ?
I genuinely don't think there's a solution that
Jesus Christ,
But
this is
but if there's one, is
Judgment Day.
is to force everyone to have a religion. Because one of the biggest predictors of
Childbirth.
increasing is religious. So even in the US, you look conservatives, I think, who are typically more religious, they have more kids. And then if you break down between secular and religious conservatives have more.
So by enforcing religion, you would have people be at least aware of the fact that religion pushes
I think
people
what
to kids.
religion does is that if pushes the person to think beyond their life.
Selfish wants and needs.
Yeah. So it's like I have these values that I obviously like, and I pass on this to a kid who will
Continue
be
to.
encouraged by me to do it.
That's
So
like-
that's
that's
the single
actually-
biggest predictor. If you look at the world with the highest growth rates, India, religious, the Arab world, in Malaysia, right?
America, Christians.
In
Israel
Malaysia,
also.
same thing, right? Indonesia, don't need to say lah, right? So Brazil, so that's the biggest predictor.
Religion
Brainwash people
equals
with
more.
religion. Brainwash people with religion.
Yeah, but then again, like how do you implement that? Very difficult lah.
Yeah. Even if you do force implement that, I don't think many people would subscribe to it.
I
Especially
think
because
largely
they will-
people will unsubscribe to it
Yeah,
as a form of protest.
Yeah, they might. But if illegal,
Yeah,
you
there's just
kena
something
fine
about
how?
there's
Don't
just
go church,
something
kena
about
fine.
secular mindsets that don't want kids.
I think if it was to be implemented in schools when you were young, then you have sort of like a roadmap in that direction for people to have kids. It's fair. It's fair. Like if you implemented forced religion into schools, right? Like let's say whether it's like you have to teach agama or you have to teach Christianity, you have to teach a certain form of religion that you must subscribe to, and you must follow it within your weekly practices or whatever. Possible, man, to increase birth rate, but it's like very unbu.
Yeah.
It's very Konoha under, very danzo lah. It's not very,
Very
you know,
manufactured lah.
quite lah. But I mean, it gets the job done.
But I think the more important question always, if you're as a society, is do we need the population growth and what kind of population growth? I think that's the most.
Yeah, because you were saying quality population is what matters most, rather
quality,
than.
Yeah. I think that's the most important. We cannot be just numbers. If we get all duds, right, then
There's no point also. You give birth to like morons, right?
yeah, population
Then
growth go up, but violence also goes up.
Yeah.
Everything that is bad goes up. So it doesn't matter lah.
For me,
You need what? No, you need like the Japanese population doubling every 5 years. Then you have a proper.
I
society.
don't think so. I've been there for 3 weeks. After I've seen a lot of Japanese people, I cannot agree.
Unfortunately, the groups that should be giving birth more are not lah. I will not complete the sentence, but yeah.
I don't know.
Imagine Japanese people were growing at 15% every year, their population, bro.
I don't know, man. I was there for a while, man. Like, I'm not gonna. I'll tell you after lah. But thanks
but it's
for
not like,
But I don't know. Any last thoughts? No. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
good.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you are not a Patreon member, do consider. Don't forget to like and comment. Love you long time. Kiss, kiss.
Peace.
Oh, wait, let me clap. Okay.